So you're in two minds. You haven't ridden any of the 350s and you're not sure whether to go for the Hunter, the Meteor, or the classic 350. Which one do you go for? Hopefully this video should help you out. I do. Once I've got both of the bikes, I thought I'd walk you through them and kind of just see the defining points why you might want to go for one or the other. So I think what we'll start with really is let's just talk about both the bikes and their similarities. First of all, they both have the same chassis, they both have the same engine, but there's some differences physically on the bike. So we have a higher rake on the forks on the Hunter here than what it is on the 350, and what that does, it gives it a bit of a tighter turning circle and it makes it very much more responsive as well. Also we have 17-inch wheels on the front and the rear on the Hunter, and on the Meteor we have a 19 here and an 18 on the back. Looks wise, we have the exhaust here, which is powder coated. The whole bike is powder coated nicely. Very easy bikes to keep clean. You know, as soon as you get them muddy, you can get the hose pipe out and most of the dirt will just fall off anyway. It's not the sort of dirt that sticks too well because it's so nicely finished, and very much a glossy feel to the finish on both bikes. Naturally, we've got more chrome on the Meteor, and they are known for rusting, sadly, down at the back of these exhausts here on the Meteor, but they do look really nice. And it's all down to personal preference, but for me, I personally find the Royal Enfield Meteor nicer to look at. I think it's got this silver fleck here on the engine case, whereas that's fully blacked out, and also the wheels are laser cut as well. Again, it's all powder coated, but then you got these silver flecks on the wheels which look really nice. Physically, the Hunter looks quite small when I'm stood here. As you can see, it's quite a compact bike, and also when you sit on it, I've got a 30-inch inside leg measurement. I'm 5'8" tall, just for reference. So when you sat on it, you're slightly over the tank a bit more than what you are on the Meteor. Peg position is kind of in the middle here, it's down straight below. And what we'll do is we'll go over to the Meteor, and it's quite a lot different. The seat is a lot wider, which also makes it quite a bit more comfortable actually. So leg positions, an armchair feel on the Meteor, nice bend in the leg there. It feels lower, but I don't think there's a huge amount in that. Both seats are very comfortable, but the Meteor is definitely more comfortable. So I think one of the things you've got to ask yourself really between the two bikes is what you want to do with them. The Hunter is a better city bike. You know, if it's going around the city and you want to do a lot of filtering, it's hard to beat the Hunter. It's one of the best bikes out there for filtering in the city, whereas the Meteor is a lot slower to turn and it's more of a cruiser. I personally find it a nicer ride than what it is on the Hunter, but it does take its time, and sometimes you just want to get from A to B as quick as you can. So in which case the Meteor's quick enough, but it doesn't feel like you're getting somewhere. It still feels quite lazy, and it doesn't make you want to open up and get there quicker. It just wants to take its time, and it's all about the ride with the Meteor. I think that's the way to say it. Whereas with the Hunter, you feel like you can open it up, it sounds great, sounds a bit more racy, and it does tend to shift quite a bit quicker. It certainly sounds like it's shifting a lot quicker anyway. And obviously that's all down to, again, the wheels on the back, which are 17-inch, whereas the 18-inch on the rear on the Meteor, even though it's only an inch, it does make a bit of a difference to how the engine pulls. So yeah, it's definitely, the mapping on the Hunter is definitely a lot different. And yeah, it's a bit more of a racing machine. I think. And also we have the suspension, which is different on here. We have the springs, which have a equal coil gap there on that one, and on here we have the progressive springs, which are a bit more compact down the bottom, and then it starts to spread out. The suspension on the Meteor is it's a bit harsh on the back, I'm finding, and it certainly is better on the Hunter. Not a lot, but it is a bit better. Now you might have seen the video already of the chap that I met down Teignmouth, and he had the Hunter springs put on his Meteor. Massive difference, so much better. And I made a little video on that actually. But yeah, I think if I owned a Meteor, I'd probably buy some Hunter shocks and then swap them over, because it's only about £100 and it makes the suspension a lot more tolerable on the Meteor. Riding with a passenger for the rider isn't very nice on the Hunter, it feels a little bit compact, and because you're already over the bars and there's a bit of weight on your wrists, you get even more by the time you get a pillion on there. So not the best bike for pillion riding, it's a little bit small, but total contrast on the Meteor. The Meteor for pillion riding, it pulls really nicely, you've got lower end torque on this one compared to the Hunter, and it does tend to pull a lot better with a passenger. Brake position on the Meteor is also nice as well, it's just there, it's very easy to use, and again it's a little bit more racy on the Hunter. For motorway riding, I think the Meteor takes it. It does feel very relaxed even doing 70, probably because of the 18-inch wheel on the back there. The 17, you know, it does great on the motorway, don't get me wrong, the Hunter, but because it's got a 17-inch wheel, it just feels like it's revving just that little bit more to keep up the speed of the restricted 71 miles an hour. Price-wise, we're looking at 3,750 it starts for the Hunter. The Meteor starts at 3,800, somewhere around there, or 3,750 for the viable version. This is the Supernova, so you get the screen here and the backrests and a few other things. So this one starts at 4,200. Obviously you get the tripper with the Meteor as well, which is something which I haven't really used anyway. I think I can take or leave the tripper, because if I wanted sat nav, then I'd probably just get my phone and then put it in the holder on the handlebars, which means that it can Bluetooth over to your headset as well, and you get a bit more usability then. You know, it makes it a bit easier to use, whereas the tripper is kind of something and nothing really, now that I've used it a bit more. Nice to have, but not really necessary. So I'd rather, in all honesty, I'd rather have that as an optional extra, actually. I'd rather not pay for it and maybe knock £100 off the bike and knock it down to 4,1. But that's what they do, that's what they do. Braking is good on both bikes. You get the gaiters on this bike, so it very much looks like a scrambly-fied bike. Why would you buy the Hunter over the Meteor? Probably because you want to get places quicker. You might do a lot of traffic riding, which it's hard to beat the Hunter for filtering through traffic. It's an amazing bike for that. Very, very quick, very agile. You can really duck in tight places and duck in and out of the traffic and weave around nicely, whereas the Meteor is definitely slower to turn. But I think it could be argued it's a nicer ride. I find it a nicer ride, it's more steady, but I could ride this bike all day. I could probably ride that one all day as well. You know, it's still very comfortable. But yeah, it's just down to preference really, and what sort of riding you like to do. If you're A2, I think that is a brilliant bike as your first big bike. I think it's a very exciting, engaging ride, and yeah, sounds great as well, you know, considering it's Euro 5. The Hunter is a good first bike as well, but I think most young A2 riders, and I'm talking sort of 21 years old upwards, would probably have more fun on the Hunter for sure. For touring and distance riding, I think the Meteor is going to win this one. Obviously it looks a little bit bigger. It rides better on the motorway, and of course in this particular case on the Supernova we have the screen as well, which is really nice, and it works quite well, surprisingly well. A little bit noisy, but it does the job all right. Whereas with the Hunter, I think for me personally, I think there's only so much I'd like to do on the motorway with it, because obviously you've got no windshield and you're getting all the wind there, which is lovely in the summer, but in the winter it's going to be a bit more hard work. So overall, hopefully that's cleared that up a little bit, and you can kind of see the differences between the two bikes. Price wise, as I say, it might be a deciding factor. Do you pay £400 more for the Supernova or do you go for the fireable version of the Meteor, which is a lot more naked, you don't get the screen and a few other bits, which then brings it down the same price as the Hunter. Something else to think about is the Hunter does come with a conventional shifter, whereas the Meteor has a heel and toe shifter. Now, in the beginning, I didn't like the heel and toe shifter. It was just a bit faffy to me. Now I've got used to it, I wouldn't want it any other way. So what it boils down to really is price. I mean, firstly, if you buy the fireable version of the Meteor, then it's pretty much the same price as the Hunter. Do you want something that gets you around quickly and feel like you're making progress, and that's quite engaging to ride and sounds good, then it's going to be the Hunter. No doubt about it, it's still very comfortable. It just depends how much faster roads that you do, really, roads that are above 60 national speed limit. That's the Hunter 350 and the Meteor 350. Both good bikes, no wrong answer here. It just depends what you want, how tall you are, and just what you want out of a bike, really. What type of riding do you enjoy doing? For me, it's that one. Possibly because I've got two other bikes as well, which are a bit more fiery. I've got a long distance touring bike, which stroke commuter, which is the NC 750. I've also got the BMW 850R as well, which has its own perks and gives me something different than what the NC does. The only thing missing is something that's a little bit more steady, better on fuel, and most importantly, in fact both bikes actually, are very easy to pull out the garage and just go. Whereas my NC and my BMW R850 is definitely not. It takes a lot more pulling around and struggling around to wrestling with it to get it out of the garage. So yeah, I think I've pretty much said all that I need to say. So thanks very much for watching. If you've got any questions on the Hunter or the Meteor 350, I've put a few hundred miles on that one so far. Still got it for a while yet. And I've put about 1,200 miles on the Meteor now. So do drop me a comment if you've got any questions. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you Sunday next week. Cheers. Oh, thank you very much. You didn't hear the bit 5 minutes before. I was going.